Hi, this is Joey O'Neill from Sound Systems Incorporated out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and today we are at Livingston Baptist Church in Delco, North Carolina. This is not an install we did originally. Actually, I think this install's been here for quite a few years, but what we did is came in and made some upgrades for them. We installed a robotic camera. We installed an ancillary or an accessory mixer so that we could feed a recording over to their to their CD player. And the unit there on the bottom is a CD player for playback, and the one on top is what they use for recording. We'll go through more about this other little PV mixer here, but I wanted to show you some changes that we made on their audio mixer. What they were doing previously was they had a monitor facing the choir, plus they have 3 speakers in the front of house. When the original install was done, they all were tied together, so they had no independent control for the monitor speaker facing the choir. They also have an independent monitor mix that goes to the piano player, an independent mix that goes to the organist, and obviously the control for the house sound system. But we made a few changes for them, and what I'm going to do is I'd just like to run through the channel strip. And the purposes of this is not for any kind of technical prowess or anything. I just want to show the sound system operators at the church what everything does. From what I understand, they haven't had a lot of training, so I just wanted to go through everything and talk about what was happening in each individual channel. As we know, if we know what one channel does, it doesn't matter how many we have. We can have 1,000 of them and they're going to do the same thing. For the purposes of this conversation, I know I've got a little glare on the mixer, so I'm going to go through each label here. But I have a little bit of music playing, a little soft music playing in the background. And obviously this is labeled CD playback from the previous install. And what happens, the purpose of all these knobs are, I'm going to push this slider up slightly so we can listen to music as we're talking. And the first button we reach here is called L-R. Obviously that means left and right, which sends sound out into the main audio system, to the main sound system. So therefore, if I push that up, disengage it, I have sound playing in the channel, of course, but I don't have any audio because once I engage that, it sends audio over to the main output of the mixer, which is this guy, and it's labeled mains, and that takes care of sound going to my main house system. All right, I'm going to pull this back just a little bit. Next we have 3-4 and 1-2, and these are called group outputs. Now, the way the mixer is set up is we have 32 channels to hear, and then we have channels 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, which are stereo returns or stereo inputs that we could use. In this mixer, there is nothing plugged into this whole entire section. So this section of the mixer utilizes nothing at this point when we got here. They may in the future, I don't know. But what's important to know is that these assignment buttons, for example, here it says 3-4 and 1-2, actually mean that they would assign and send sound to group 1, which is here, group 2, which is there, group 3, which is there, and group 4, which is there. So for example, if I turn the music off in my house sound system and I activate 3-4, it would send this sound to numbers 3 and number 4, and that would work as a subgroup, or I could group different things into that output. Now, I'm using this for different purposes. We have the audio of all the pulpit, lavaliers, all of the inputs for the sound system in this audio system. What I'm doing is I'm assigning everything to 1/2, which means 1/2 is coming over here to my groups 1 and 2. And I have labeled this as, you might not be able to see it for the glare, but I've labeled this as recording out and direct feed. That goes out and goes over to the small PV mixer that I showed you earlier that I'll go into more detail. What's most important to remember this, I have 2 small little labels here that say no, 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 because what I don't want to do is I don't want to activate these, and I don't want to send that sound, I don't want to send it to my main speakers. I don't want it to even touch my main speakers. So I want to make sure all of these are up all the time. Therefore, this would be the recording level that comes out of here and goes over to the other small PV mixer, which I'll get into detail later. So what we do not want to do or activate or push down any of these 4 buttons which send these to the main speakers. I want to send it out and only over to the recording area. So to recap, that sends it to my LR, which I need to have down. This would send it to group 3 and 4 if I wanted to, but I'm not using 3 and 4. This sends it to 1 and 2, which obviously has to go there because it goes to my recording. This is a solo button. Let's say that I'm, let me turn that down for just a second. Let's say that I'm having church and I keep hearing some crackling or popping. I'm not sure what's going on. I can't determine what's happening. This solo button allows me to come over here and plug headphones in to the headphone jack. I've got a headphone volume control over here, and it lets me listen independently to this one channel. If I come over here to this solo, it lets me listen independently to channel 23, channel 22, and so on. And I can keep listening to those independent channels until I determine what my problem is. I could have a bad cable. I could just have noise coming from an instrument or anything like that, but at least at that point I'll know where it's coming from. I can either decide to turn it down, mute it, do something else different with it. Speaking of mutes, when the top blue button here is a mute switch, which obviously if I push that, it kills sound going to all locations. Now, as I previously said before, the next button right here is called an LR, which means it would pan from left to right. This system is not set up in stereo, so it's pretty much irrelevant at this point. Okay, these 4 red knobs here are auxiliary 1, 2, 3, and 4. I can independently select what's in this channel, which is my music playing, and I can come up here to auxiliary 4, and I can increase or decrease what I have hooked up to auxiliary 4. At this point, we have nothing hooked up to auxiliary 4, so it won't be used. If I come up here to auxiliary 3 and turn that up, you can hear it increasing for the powered monitor that's over by the electronic organ, piano or organist. So I can independently select what's in this channel going to the organ player. Now if I come up here to auxiliary 2, I turn that up and it's coming through the powered monitor speaker over by the piano area. So I can independently control what's in this channel going to the piano. What we have changed for the church is to allow them to have certain things back toward their audio monitor facing the choir, and that is now controlled on auxiliary 1. So if I increase this, you should be able to hear the volume increasing and decreasing. All I'm doing is turning this music, that's the house system. I can increase or decrease it how I need to, and I can come up here and increase it and decrease it in the choir monitor, independent from this. So all 4 of these are independent only if this button right here that says pre, there's a little blue button in it right underneath that says pre, which means pre-fade, or means once I set the monitor level, it stays that way, it doesn't change. That always needs to be up, and we have them up on all the channels now. Okay, so not getting any heavy detail about tone control. The next 4 buttons are low, low, mid, high, mid, and highs, which is basically bass and treble. You set that to your taste, whatever you would like to have, or depending on what kind of instrument, what type of vocal you're reproducing. You can increase the highs for vocal intelligibility, crispness, clarity, whatever terminology that you want to use. You can have that setting the way you'd like to have it. Now, probably the most important control is the very top. That is the gain control. That, if I would make an adjustment on this gain control clockwise, it would increase the volume of every setting I have. Counterclockwise, it would decrease the volume or the gain of every setting that I have on this mixer. So basically that's the channel strip. Remembering that what feeds here comes over and feeds this area and also feeds the main output. There's a lot of things on this mixer, and I'm not sure how long we're going to keep this because there's actually a problem. I don't know if we can see it, but channel 17 with no input or no output and all gain off is causing quite a bit of static, so I think there's some electronic problems with this particular audio mixer. That's another for another time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan over to my right, and we have installed a robotic camera system. I'll get into detail about that on another video. But what we're doing, if you remember on this group 1 and 2 out here, I have 2 level controls that come out of this group 1 and 2 out, and they come over here to this mixer, and I have labeled it as direct feed, and it is in channels 3 and 4. 2 cables coming here. So we're coming straight out of this mixer into here. The reason I did it this way, we also went into the congregation and suspended a couple of condenser congregation mics, obviously in the congregation, because now that we're going to be making a DVD, or now that we're going to be recording to a laptop, we're going to be seeing 200 or 300 people in the congregation, but we want to make sure that we're hearing what's going on when they're congregational singing, prayer requests, prayer responses, and such. So now this particular mixer is feeding an output going over to my computer, which I'll show you in a minute, and I needed another output, so I'm just using this headphone control. It says CD record, and this particular CD player, this CD recorder, this Tascam unit here is what they currently record their CDs on. This cable comes out and feeds, excuse me, the Tascam CD recorder. I've instructed the church that what they should be listening to is the actual recording head of the unit they're recording to. So for example, when church is going on and they're setting everything up, they're going to put a CD in here and go through their normal setup to record a CD, throw headphones on here, and now you're listening to what your recording sounds like. But you have the capability of increasing the microphones for the congregation to get a nice live feel, or increasing the direct feed coming off the standard audio mixer into the recording. And the beauty of that is it lets us blend, and once we start making video systems, we can now have more of a lively and better recording. I'm going to stop it at that, and then I'm going to jump onto the computer and show the video system and a couple options we have there. Joey O'Neill from Sound Systems over in Myrtle Beach. I can be reached at 843-602-5883. Thank you.